This is Trent Price from T-rizzle's Variety Hour. You're listening to my interview with Darren Nicholson of Balsam Range. The interview was originally recorded October 27th, 2021. I then aired it on my radio show November 18th, 2021. Thanks for listening. All right, today I'm with Darren Nicholson of the local bluegrass group of fame, Balsam Range. I'm so excited to have Darren here with me today, and he's from Canton, North Carolina. He's a Grammy-nominated powerhouse musician. Thank you for being here, Darren.
Man, I'm honored to be here, Trent. Thanks for having me, buddy.
Yeah, no problem. So I wanted to talk a little bit today about your life and career in music. Would you tell me first, how did you get started in music?
Well, I've been around music my whole life. I was born in a little community in western North Carolina called Tuckasegee, which is over near Western Carolina University, near Cullowhee, and both of those are Cherokee words. That's, if everybody's familiar with Western Carolina University, it's in Jackson County. And my parents, about everybody in my family, played country music, bluegrass, old time. And I just kind of grew up in it. You know, they played for square dances and parties and benefits and local get-togethers, gatherings, pickings, and it was just kind of a way of life. You know, I didn't really, that was kind of my childhood. I didn't really, you know, that was kind of the culture I was brought up in, and I didn't really know any better. And music was just a part of our household, and every night, you know, we didn't really watch TV. That was our entertainment, and so there was always instruments laying around. And you know, when I got as I got older, I just kept my love and passion for music just blossomed, and now I've been playing and traveling professionally for over 20 years, and it's just been a wild ride, something I'm thankful for, but it's been around since my early childhood.
Yeah. What was the first instrument that you learned to play?
Well, I had a little plastic guitar that I kind of drug around as a kid. I've got pictures on stage with my family when I was 18 months old. I couldn't play, but I would sit on stage in a chair with a little plastic guitar, and I would sit there the whole set with my mom and dad and smile, and I would get tip money from the audience, you know, and that was my first, my first introduction into show business was putting a smile on my face and getting tips from the crowd. And but guitar was probably first. I learned a few chords on the guitar, and then I got into fiddle and violin. I was in the strings program at Inca when we moved near Asheville when I was in middle school. I got into the strings program and played violin, played classical music. And then violin and guitar, and I got into rock and roll, played electric music, country music. And then recently, Sonny Osborne passed away 2 days ago from the legendary Osborne Brothers. Mm-hmm. And there was a summer, I was 14 years old, and I was playing a gig near Bryson City, Nantahala Gorge. And I'd really gotten into electric music and country music and kind of gotten away from bluegrass. And I was riding down to this gig with an old man from Glenville, North Carolina, and he had a cassette tape of the Osborne Brothers. And I fell in love with their music and fell in love with bluegrass all over again. And that's when I sold my electric guitar and got a mandolin. I quit playing fiddle and violin at that point, and I've been playing, basically mandolin's been my main instrument ever since. I play guitar some now still, and but that was kind of a career change and a kind of a life change for me.
For those who are maybe not familiar with you guys, just tell me a little bit about Balsam Range in general.
Yeah, well, Balsam Range is a group of musicians from Western North Carolina who all had careers doing other things. Mark Pruitt, the banjo player, did 5 albums with Ricky Skaggs. He won a Grammy for doing a record called Bluegrass Rules. Tim Surratt traveled with a gospel group called the Kingsman Quartet for many, many years, and the Isaacs traveled playing primarily gospel music, but and the Gaither tours, Bill Gaither homecomings, things like that. I was playing the Grand Ole Opry and toured with Merle Haggard, with an artist named Alicia Nugent, and had been traveling on the road. And we all found ourselves, we came off the road about the same time, around 2005, 2006, and found ourselves at home in western North Carolina. We all live in Haywood County, Waynesville, Canton, that area. And Buddy Melton and myself did solo records about the same time. And Mark and Tim both played on those solo records. And, Mark and Tim were just talking and said, hey, it's just kind of crazy that these guys we're all here together right now and we're not traveling. Maybe we should start a band and maybe book a few shows. We've done a couple of these recordings and we got together for a jam session in my kitchen in late 2006, early 2007, and that was 15 years ago, and the band's still going. And we've done like 12 or 13 albums. I can't even keep count. We've had about 40 number one songs and 13 IBMA awards, and it's just been a wild ride. It's hard to imagine that just a little jam session that started in my kitchen would turn into 15 years of what it has.
Tell me a little bit more about what you were into before Balsam Range.
Yeah, I was traveling with a young lady named Alicia Nugent, and she was on Rounder Records. We were label mates with Alison Krauss, and she was produced by a guy named Carl Jackson. He was the band leader in Glenn Campbell's band during Glenn's heyday, and he's a Hall of Fame musician who he played and produced Emmylou Harris and Dolly Parton, Linda Ronstadt, James Taylor. He's just a famous Nashville producer, singer, songwriter, and I got this gig with Alicia and a chance to work with Carl Jackson. And for an 18, 19-year-old kid, it was like a dream come true. I was like a sponge. It was a great opportunity for me to learn a lot. And I got the job with and because of my buddy Steve Sutton, who was a Western North Carolina musician. We started going to Nashville about that time, and we got a guest spot with her on the Grand Ole Opry, and we guessed 2 weekends in a row, and then she offered us a job touring with her full time, and that led to 3 years of traveling all over the world, all over the country, and making friends in bluegrass and doing a lot of really cool shows and opportunities that I never would have got to do otherwise. And that was kind of what jump-started my professional career, and I'm forever grateful for that opportunity.
Right. I think you've said before, like maybe in other interviews or even on stage, but Balsam Range kind of has its own brand of bluegrass, if you will. You guys aren't, I mean, you have some hard driving traditional stuff, but you also have a lot of, smoother type bluegrass and songs that maybe some other bluegrass musicians wouldn't consider.
Yeah, for sure.
Will you tell me a little bit about kind of what you think your style is?
Well, nothing's off limits. The cool thing about Balsam Range is all the guys in the band are so versatile that nothing's off limits. And so the sound from song to song can change so much, We can play traditional bluegrass, but then, Buddy's got this kind of rock and roll kind of voice. And then, the ability to sing ballads or change and do a traditional gospel number or play a rock and roll cover or we love doing original music, and when we're putting a set list together or an album, we want every song to have a different groove, be in a different key, have a different tempo. And so we're always trying to bend the ear and constantly keep, everything coming at you different. Like, a lot of bluegrass can be boring, to be honest with you, and a lot of it sounds the same. And I've heard a lot of people joke and make fun of bluegrass, like once you've heard one bluegrass song, you've heard them both, because a lot of it kind of runs together. It sounds like a lot of fiddle tunes sound the same, or a lot of songs. And I've heard bluegrass bands that are professional bluegrass bands that'll come out and kick off in the key of B, and they play like 5 songs in a row that are basically the same kickoff, the same ending, the same tempo. and even though they play them and execute them great, and they sing great and play great, it's like it sounds like it's like 25 minutes of the same song. And so that's something we've always tried to be conscious of, is like, even though it's a great pitcher and he's got an amazing pitch, it's like the song selection is huge for us to keep the listener interested. And so even though you've got a great fastball, throw a fastball, then throw a curveball, then throw a sinker, then throw a cutter, and then it kind of keeps the audience off balance. It keeps them interested in the music. And so, and that's kind of what we do with song selection, do a gospel song, do a slow song, do a fast song, do a medium tempo, do something that's groovy, do something that's honky-tonk sounding. And so that's something that we've always tried to do, to keep our sets interesting, to keep our albums interesting, and just the top choosing interesting type of interesting material, and so the biggest compliment that we get, we have people that come up and say, we don't like bluegrass, but we like your band.
Mm-hmm.
And so we just try to play something for everybody and try to keep it interesting.
Well, I certainly think it's worked out for you guys.
Well, it's a conscious effort.
Right.
Right. We sit down, like, some people, it's organic, but it's also, you got to think about that too. Like, I've been in bands before where there will be a song that's an A, that's a medium tempo song, and we'll play it, and it reminds somebody of another song that's a medium tempo song in A, and here they want to play it too,
Yeah.
And so the next thing you know, you've done basically 15, 20 minutes of the same song.
Yeah.
And so we always just try to keep it fresh and new.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the different recordings and stuff like that from Balsam Range. But first, a few years ago, I believe in 2015, if I'm right, you guys were inducted with the Order of the Longleaf Pine.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about what that meant to you?
Oh man, that's a huge honor. I mean, that had to do with service work,
Mm-hmm.
for the kind of things that we've done, tried to do for our community, as far as benefits and fundraisers and the things that we live in Western North Carolina, and we try to represent this area the best we can, and so over the years, we've played a lot of benefits and fundraisers and tried to do our part to pitch in and give back. And not only that, but carrying the music around, from taking Western North Carolina and just saying, hey, we're from the mountains, and we're playing this style of music, and we're representing, Carolina culture, and taking it to Europe, taking it all over the place, and just saying, we're representing mountain music and dance and culture, and so it's the Order of the Longleaf Pine. For people who don't know, it's kind of the equivalent of being a Kentucky colonel, or it's an order. It's a honor given by the governor, mm-hmm. and it's the highest honor a civilian can be given in the state of North Carolina, unless you're some kind of a military officer or an officer that's been decorated, or which we're not. It's the highest honor a civilian can be given in our state, and so the band was all individually. We were made Order of the Longleaf Pine, and that was a really cool thing. And it was given to us by the governor at the International Bluegrass Music Awards that year, and I think it was the year that we won Entertainer of the Year. So it was a big year for us.
Yeah. Tell me about Balsam Range has a brand new album out, Moxie and Metal. Tell me about that. Yeah,
I'm trying to think of how many albums we have. There's so many now, I've lost count. But during the pandemic, during the shutdown, we couldn't really play live shows, so we went in and started recording. We had 4 singles that came out during that time, and Moxie and Metal, that title, the line came out of a song called Grit and Grace, and that's where the album title came from. And it's a pile of songs that we recorded during the pandemic that we're super proud of. The album has been a huge success so far. We've humbly said we've had 4 number 1 songs off that record, and the album is going strong. Really proud of the artwork of it. If folks get a chance to check out Moxie and Metal, give it a listen. It's the newest Balsam Range thing. Sonically, I'm really proud of it. Scott Barnett engineers our records. I think it's a great sounding record from that standpoint. Just the audio on it, the tones. I'm really proud of it. I hope folks give it a listen.
Yeah, if you would, tell me a little bit about another album that was a huge hit for you guys, the Trains I Missed album.
You know, that was our 3rd record, and that's still one of my favorites. I love that song, Trains I Missed. It was Song of the Year at IBMA back in 2011. And we sing that song every night. I never get tired of doing it. It's one of the best messages in a song I've ever heard. And if you get a chance to check out Trains I Missed, I encourage you to do so.
Yeah.
It was written by Walt Wilkins. He's a Texas songwriter. And the demo that we got was a rock and roll demo. It was not a bluegrass demo. And I think that's part of the material, the kind of the unique sound of Balsam Range. A lot of the material that we pick is not bluegrass material, and we take this material and turn it into bluegrass. But a good song is a good song, and we try to pick the very best songs. That's the bottom line, and I think if anything, that's kind of been the signature for Balsam Range. That's something that we've become known for over the years, is trying to find great songs.
Yeah, tell me a little bit about the 5 album.
Yep, coincidentally, Trent, it was our 5th album. Yeah, that record, that one had a song called Moon Over Memphis that was written by a buddy of ours named Mark W. Winchester. Mm-hmm. And that ended up being Bluegrass Music Song of the Year. The thing I remember about that album, probably that stands out to me the most, is Moon Over Memphis, and a lady in Asheville named Nancy Hilliard Joyce did the painting for that album, which is the artwork.
Yeah.
I love the album art for that. I think Everything That Glitters, we did a Dan Seals cover on that record, which is a popular kind of a crowd favorite that we do. Trying to think what other songs were on that. I cut a song called Too High a Price to Pay. Mm-hmm. That was written by a friend of mine named Jennifer Strickland that I traveled with all the way back to the Alicia Nugent days. Her and John Weisberger wrote that song. It was one of my favorite songs I've ever recorded.
So it might be kind of hard to think or pinpoint, but what do you think is your favorite Balsam Range recording to date?
Man, I like Moxie and Metal. I like the new one. If I had to pick, Trains I Missed stands out to me. Eonic stands out to me. My favorite song I've ever cut, The Rambler, is on that one. And then we did a record called Mountain Voodoo that just had so many good songs on it.
Right. That
it just kind of, for whatever reason, they all do. It's like trying to pick your favorite child, you know?
Right. Well,
I mean, it's easy because, let's be honest, we all have our favorite child. It really depends on the mood I'm in, but Trains I Missed is such a strong song. Man. Yeah, I don't know. It's whatever I'm working on at the moment is really what I've probably got most of my heart into. But Trains I Missed is one of those songs. It's a lifetime kind of song.
Right. Well, you mentioned it, but tell me a little bit more about the Eonic album.
That one came out. That was the album we did before Moxie and Metal, and it had I mean, we released a gospel album, but it was kind of a compilation record. We Eonic it had The Girl Who Invented the Wheel, and it had The Rambler on it. Man, we've done so many albums, I can't remember which songs were on which, but that particular record, that's another one that Scott engineered, and I just remember sonically how good it sounded, just the tones of it. He's an engineer. We record for Mountain Home, and at the studio's called Crossroads. It's in Arden, North Carolina. And Scott is just one of the best engineers on planet Earth. He is just absolutely incredible. And I just remember listening back to that record when it was done and just remembering how good the tones were on it, and being really proud of it.
I know that. I guess probably the song that had the #1 hit was "The Girl Who Invented the Wheel."
Yeah, I love that, and that's another one where I love the artwork on it.
Oh yeah, it's fantastic. You know, I mean, there's not really many albums out there that look like that.
We've always chosen album art. There's only one album. We've got like 15 albums, and there's only one album that has our picture on it, and it's the very first album.
Yeah.
And I like that because we've always chosen to go with a painting or some kind of art that's beyond, bluegrass is kind of known. I think one of the things that's held bluegrass back is bluegrass bands take the worst pictures and they choose the worst absolute album art. You know what I mean? Like it always looks cheesy and cheap, and I think a lot of times, even the music and the songs can be really good, but I think people will dismiss it just by the look of it. If it's five, terrible looking guys in sport coats standing on a railroad track holding a banjo, people aren't going to take the music seriously. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's really good. And I really love all you guys' album covers too. And I think that's, like you said, a thing that really sets you apart. And really kind of, there's back in the day when everybody was doing LPs. I mean, album art was probably a lot more of a priority than it is now. I feel like, because there are a lot of really, really cool album covers on LPs that you just don't get anymore.
Oh yeah, that's one thing I miss. I miss album art. I miss all that,
Yeah.
I love getting the records and going through the liner notes, and that's the thing that digital music doesn't offer. Is I'm a music nerd. I want to know who played on what. I want to know the instrumentation. I want to know who sang on what. I like to dig deeper.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm right there with you on that. And that actually kind of connects to my next question. I was going to ask you about the Darren Nicholson band, and one of the things that sticks out in my mind is the Things Left Undone album has some of the best liner notes I've ever seen.
Oh man! Well, thank you, buddy.
Yeah, you've got everybody that came into the studio and all that, and I think that's very important,
Yeah, well, I was so proud of everybody who played on everything, and I wanted to give everybody credit because I felt like I just had a bunch of guys in there hitting home runs, and girls. Everybody that came in there was just hitting home runs, and I was like, damn, we got to make sure everybody's getting credit. You know what I mean? Like, this is, when it's Balsam Range, it's just the five of us, and everybody knows who's doing what. You know what I mean? Like, there's no secrets behind the curtain, but when you're doing a solo record and you've got a bunch of guests, you got to kind of clarify who's doing what,
Yeah.
And so I wanted to, if it were me and I was looking at a solo record, I would, and there's a bunch of guests on it, I would want to know who's singing where, who's playing where. I wouldn't want to be left guessing or trying to figure it out, so I loved making that record. And to this day, people still say it's their favorite record. I've made a bunch of records since then, and even with Balsam Range records, I have people tell me that's the favorite record that I've ever done.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's fantastic, and I really think it's right up there too. But would you tell me just a little bit more in general? Tell me about the Darren Nicholson band and what you guys are into.
Yeah, well, the Darren Nicholson band is a side project that basically it's been around as long as Balsam Range has been around, and it was because Balsam Range started, and Steve Sutton and I had been playing on. We were best friends and been playing together for so long, and when Balsam Range started, I was a little heartbroken that I wasn't going to get to play with Steve anymore, and so whenever parties or little events would come up around home that Balsam Range couldn't do or whatever, me and Steve would put together some buddies, and Kevin Sluter was one of them that we'd been friends for a long time. We'd go play private events and private parties at people's house and just pick for fun. It just basically is an excuse to get together as friends. Mm-hmm. And we would do this wild wing gig once in a while, and this bar gig in Asheville. And over the years, as Balsam Range has grown and they want to travel and do less and less, it's, I'm the youngest guy in the band, and I've got a fire in my belly to play a lot. Mm-hmm. Those guys, they only want to do so many dates a year. And but I don't. I want to play a lot, and so as they set their calendar and do what they want to do. It leaves a lot of holes in my calendar to play music, and so I kind of fill my calendar up when they set their schedule with Darren Nicholson band stuff, and I play a lot of things locally with my buddies, and it's an excuse to get together with my friends and have fun. Steve Sutton passed away in 2017, but me and Kevin and Richard are still going. We've been playing together, 15 or 16 years as well, just playing a lot of local gigs and things. But we get out and do a few professional things, do a few festivals and this and that ourselves, because they're professional musicians as well. We just kind of, or it's definitely a more laid back approach. We don't consider ourselves like a Balsam Range or we're not trying to set the world on fire or change the world. We just want to show up and have fun and just, we're just a bunch of buddies that like to show up and play music and have fun,
Yeah. Well, tell me a little bit about, you've got a few albums now that are, Darren Nicholson albums, but tell me about, we talked a little bit about Things Left Undone. Tell me about Fred a Spell.
Yeah, that was my first album came out in 2006, and that was the project I mentioned before that Tim and Mark played on. That was kind of the catalyst for Balsam Range. So my third album is called Fred a Spell, and it was an instrumental mandolin record. And when Steve passed away in 2017, there was a couple of records that were kind of like dream projects that I always wanted to do. I wanted to do an electric country kind of record, and I wanted to do an instrumental mandolin record that was like fire-breathing bluegrass, traditional bluegrass record, because Balsam Range doesn't play traditional bluegrass. Mm-hmm. I wanted to do one that was like very traditional bluegrass, and so when Steve passed away in 2017 unexpectedly, I think I was leaning toward doing the electric record first, but then that changed for me. I felt this urgency to do the instrumental record because I was like, well, I don't want to put this instrumental record off, because while Mark Pruitt, God forbid, I didn't think Mark Pruitt was going to die or anything, but it was like, I don't want to wait 10 years and something happened to Mark. You know what I mean? Like, right. I didn't feel an urgency, but I'm like, let me do this now while Mark's still playing really good, and I just don't want to put this off and have some regrets at some point of not doing this later, or not doing it when I should have.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of why I did the instrumental record, is I wanted to get Mark in there, and because Mark Pruitt is, in my opinion, the greatest traditional banjo player I mean, obviously Earl Scruggs, but as far as straight ahead speed and just absolutely wearing it out, there's nobody any better. I mean, and if you don't believe me, pick up Ricky Skaggs' Bluegrass Rules. Are there any questions?
yeah, exactly.
And so we went in, myself and Jason Moore and Hunter Berry on the fiddle, Andy Hall on the dobro, and Steve Lewis, and Mark Pruitt, and we just absolutely tore the faces off of some old bluegrass tunes.
Yeah.
And Mark Pruitt was leading the pack.
Well, I suppose this interview came at a pretty good time, kind of unexpectedly. You probably knew. But you've got a brand new album that you just announced coming out later in November.
Yeah, that's right.
So,
and it is an electric record.
yeah. So what all can you tell me about this?
Well, it's been something I've wanted to do for a long time, and the past few years I've really gotten into songwriting, and that's became like my new passion and something I've thrown myself into. And the album's called Man on a Mission, and I think that kind of sums up basically where I am in my personal life right now. I've been the last year or two has kind of been a personal a personal health, just a kind of a rebirth, if you will, in my personal life. I've just been trying to get healthy. It's been physical, mental, and spiritual, really. But just trying to live a much healthier lifestyle than I used to. And there's a lot of different parts to that. I don't really, don't have to really get into really much deeper than that, into all the workings of it. But, I just had to make a lot of changes in my personal life. And I just wanted to get healthy. And so I started doing some different things, and it sparked a lot of creativity in me too. It started all of a sudden this light that had kind of burned out in me creatively and musically several years ago. I started getting fired up again about music, and I started writing all these songs. I started practicing again. I started getting playing a lot again. Started just getting fired up about it again. And so I've got a pile of songs I've been writing. I just got a cut on the new Grascals record. Lonesome Is the Price I Pay was a cut on the Bluegrass Crossroads sessions that I wrote that was a number one song. It's been a very good thing. And now I've got all these songs that are on this Man on a Mission record that are going to be coming out, and we did electric versions of them, which is really outside of the box for me. And I had someone else produce it, a guy named Jeff Collins, and it's done through Mountain Home. And I had all-star musicians come in. I played the electric mandolin on this record. I played some regular mandolin, but I also played some electric mandolin. And it just got me way out of my comfort zone. It's probably not what folks are expecting from me, and it wasn't what I was expecting from myself either. So it just pushed me to a new place. It's something that I needed to do. It's something I wanted to do. I want to keep growing musically, and I want to get to a place where if I do a gospel record or a blues record or a country record or a bluegrass record, instrumental record, whatever it is, if I just want to be associated with quality music. And if like a Darrell Scott or a Marty Stewart or Tim O'Brien, I don't really care what kind of record they put out. I know it's going to be a good record, and I'll go buy it. I don't care if it's California country or Mississippi blues or a gospel record, whatever it is, I'll go buy it because I know it's going to be good. And that's just kind of the musical journey that I want to be on. And I hope people get it and check it out, and I hope they like it.
Yeah. It reminds me of a quote that I got from Carl Jackson. He was on my show last year, and I've got to spend a little bit of time with him. He said, "I don't necessarily like bluegrass or country music. I like good music."
Exactly. There's only two kinds of music, good and bad.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, Darren, I think we've just about covered quite a bit here. I usually try to always end my shows with a gospel song. With your show, I kind of wanted to end the show with "Things Left Undone."
That's a good one.
Will you tell me about that song and what it means to you?
I love this song. This was written by Paul Thorne, and he's another big influence. I love his songwriting and love the way he entertains. I love the way I've got to know Paul. I just like him as a person. This is one of those songs that reminds you of, you can't live in this world alone. We've got to be good to each other, and we got to make sure that sometimes we clean up our side of the street. If there's things that are, if there's somebody we owe an amends to, even if there's somebody that's done us wrong, it's kind of our responsibility to forgive them. You know what I mean? And not necessarily for them. Sometimes we got to do it for us so we can be happy and move on. And sometimes we got to help somebody that's down and out. Not everything's about us. And I think we lose track of that sometimes.
Yeah.
We get so locked up inside ourselves and our own thoughts and our own feelings and our own selfishness, that we forget about that. This song just helps me try to be a little better person today than I was yesterday.
Right. I think it's always a good goal.
Yeah, man. Trent, thanks so much for having me on, brother. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I appreciate you.
All right, brother. Thanks so much. And if you ever need anything, call me.
Of course, I appreciate you.
Yeah, man. See you, buddy.
You can find more and follow Darren by going to darrennicholson.net. And for his band, Balsam Range, you can go to balsamrange.com. You can look for Darren Nicholson Music on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and look for his new album coming out on Mountain Home Records called Man on a Mission, November 26th.